Okay, we are live. So this is a fun one because we get to bring in one of my good friends and now somebody from the mortgage industry that we've been collaborating a lot of stuff online and sharing some things. So today is going to be a great one because we're not only filming for the podcast virtually here, but we get to do a live webinar, which I think is very timely given we're just coming out of January, we're into February, and a lot of conversation has been around how do we create wins, Brian? January was tough for some people. I know some others had an amazing January. And so today we're very fortunate. Got Mike Fitzpatrick. I was on Mike's show. We've been collaborating on some things, and what his team is doing over at Legendary Mortgage is one of those I go, okay, what are you doing to win? I always look, and this is one of the secrets to continued success is how do you find people that are doing the things you want to do at a high level and ask them questions and learn from what they're doing, and then you can go take action. So I'm excited to have Mike on because not only do we share some of the same vision and values and things that we're doing in the marketplace, but we're both one of those, I believe, we want to see other people win. And so that conversation is all around that. And our intention is to help equip you to create more wins today. So if you are live with us, this is going to be great for you because you can drop in on the comments, drop questions, drop things in there. If you're catching the replay, let us know that. You can put replay in. And as we release this on the podcast, you join us there. We will be sharing this on our normal platforms with Apple and Spotify. So, hey, with all that said, I'm excited to jump in. Mike, welcome to the show.
What's up, Brian? I appreciate you having me. Yeah, totally reciprocate all of that. For me, same thing. I'm always watching other people that I respect and seeing what they're doing to win. And you hit the nail on the head in the sense that like January was a brutal month for a lot of people in our industry. I've seen a lot of my friends posting just how they would typically do 10, 20, 30 million a month. And one of my friends even posted that they did like 1.5 million compared to doing 10 and 20 a month. So it's definitely something that in those moments, it's pretty easy to kind of get down on yourself and not celebrate some of those micro wins that might've happened during that process for sure.
Yeah, I love that about you too. It's like, we keep it real. You know, I love people. I love it's like one end of the spectrum or the other. You got people out there like, well, you know, it's just such a hard month and, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's like all the reasons why it was difficult. And you got other people like, oh no, what's wrong with all you people that aren't producing more? And you're just using these excuses. And like, I had a record month. And I'm like, hey man, you guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Yeah. A lot of people in the middle that are like, hey man, I was working hard. I was doing a lot of the right things and they're trying to figure out how to battle through. So I would love to know your mindset because you're somebody that I look at and go, you're going through the same thing that a lot of our listeners and people watching. How do you bounce back and how do you deal with that? Where let's just say you were expecting, hey man, I normally do 5, 10 million. I didn't even do half of that in January. How do you reset, recalibrate to get into February and March and make sure we don't repeat that pattern?
Yeah, for me, it's stacking up the little micro wins in my personal business because I do still produce while leading the team. It's the little wins that stack up through the time period of even if we throw up a goose egg, like that's going to suck. It's not going to be fun to look at on a P&L and all that kind of stuff. But there are things that happen within those months that cause you to go, oh, okay, like that was a win. And for me, from a leadership standpoint, the way that I do that and stack those wins up is I'm constantly just trying to drop value and drop value and drop value and drop value. And I know that if I do that, at some point that value will then turn into the more macro wins that ultimately advance the brand forward or advance my personal production and those kind of things. What I see a lot of people doing in a lot of situations is once they have that goose egg month or they have a really bad month, it takes them 60 to 90 days to then recover from that because they let their mindset get so poor during that time of like, dude, do I even really want to do this? I think there's a lot of salespeople in the mortgage industry right now with how tough the last couple of years have been, and really probably any sales because the economy's not been great, that are asking themselves that question right now or will ask themselves that question over the next couple of months because it's going to be a little bit tough for the next 90 to 120 days as all of these policies work themselves out from a political standpoint. So it's one of those things where if you can't figure out the things that you can control and the pieces that you can control, figuring out even when there are losses, how to turn that mindset into a win, it does get extremely tough. And I would say that environment has a lot to do with that as well. If you're in an environment that doesn't celebrate those small wins, or is in a negative kind of talk about the other person or talk about the competition type environment, you can find yourself going, like I didn't win at anything this month, and that really sucked. My teeth hurt because they all got kicked in, So it's definitely, it's good to keep it real, but it's also good to be like really overly optimistic even during dark times, because that's what drags you out of it. And then on the leadership side, for me, it's just giving without the expectation of receiving anything in return has led me to where I'm at today, and the best team I've ever had with my current team. So.
Well, it gives you hope for the future, and I love that piece of, like we might be here, but we've got hope for the future. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, for your people listening out there, do you have things that are non-negotiables, a routine? Because I often think about, man, during some of these seasons, when you're not seeing the points get scored, you're putting in the work. There are certain things you just know that are required.
Yeah.
We have to do them, whether we see the results now or it's 90 days from now. I know if I don't put in the work today, like I think about this as, Mike, you and I both know, if I don't work out and I eat crappy and I don't stick to my nutrition plan and all the things there, I can guarantee what 90 days will most likely look like, which is worse. So I love these things is, man, what are some of your either non-negotiables or your routine to make sure you are stacking those micro wins?
To be honest with you, the last 2 years, because like in our business, the last 2 years have been really tough, is a cool down period is what I call it. My biggest non-negotiable is at the end of a day, and my wife may not even know that I do this, but it's a cool down period for me to go and look at everything that happened in that day, and then try to take something that happened to me in that day that maybe in the moment was like really frustrating, but then flip my perspective on it and go, all right, what did I learn from that? How do I take that and make it a positive, or how do I take that and articulate to my team so they don't make the same mistake, or they don't get themselves in that same situation that I might have personally been in, and take that and make it into a win and a teachable moment that then I can provide value on, that they get for free, and that they can learn from. And that's probably, out of anything else, the thing that's kept me sane over the last 24 months is just that, what I call a cool down period at the end of the night. My wife's asleep, because it usually happens at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I put my phone down, and right before I go to bed, I think about the things that happened that day, take inventory, say a little prayer that the bad things that happened in that day don't happen in perpetuity in the next day, because sometimes those files end up just rolling into days and days of being tough. But other than that's just keeping myself healthy from a health standpoint, eating right. I'm become big into fasting. I believe in fasting quite a bit, because it just rids your body of sugar, it clears your mind. And so those are some of the things for me that are non-negotiables. Making sure that I'm there for my kids, which I don't always hit that metric. We get busy and we walk in the house. This happened to me last night. Walk in the house, I keep it real. So I'm on my phone fighting on a deal that I've been fighting on for the last couple of days. It's a big loan amount, trying to make sure it gets over the finish line, and my daughter's pulling at my pant leg, and I didn't acknowledge her right away. So for me, that was one of those moments where, like, all right, phone down. Of course, feel a ton of dad guilt in the moment because she's trying to get my attention, and so trying to be better at that kind of stuff and make sure that keep what's important in my life.
Yeah, that's huge. Like being fully present. I always tell people, man, I don't get it right all the time, clearly, but it's one of those, like, when you become aware of it, then it starts to matter, and you start to program in your days as best as you can, right? Like, especially mortgage business, everybody listening that's in that knows, like, you can get pulled into an emergency, and it might be something, hey, let me handle this real quick. Give me 5 minutes, and hopefully you can work through it. So I love you talked about the self-care and kind of the side that a lot of people don't talk about, physical health, mental health, and all that stuff. how important do you think that is right now for loan officers, especially listening to this now? You often find it's like when one area of their life is not going well, let's just say production's down and they're not hitting their goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they start to self-destruct in other areas. Like, well, that's not going well. So, I'm just going to have that drink, or I'm not going to work out. Like, I just need to go do this. And it starts to compound. How do you continually prioritize those things? I know you're hitting it in the gym, working on mental, physical health, all the things there. How do you keep that part of your routine without getting off?
Honestly, it just the keep it simple, stupid method of like, it's got to be a time block on your calendar, or or it'll just never happen type of thing. I mean, I've got 11, 12 loan officers, and I've got 2 kids and those kind of things. So not setting that time aside to make sure that you're working on that mental health. And I've, from a working out standpoint, I'll have patches where I don't stick to it because like, I got to get to the office at like 7:30 and make sure I get out ahead of my own personal production. So I'm present for the loan officers that work with me. And it's just it's a matter of priority. If you got to wake up earlier, you got to wake up earlier and set that thing on your calendar where it becomes what we talk about as that non-negotiable, because it could be something as small as, from a mental standpoint, even if you haven't embarked on the fitness journey yet and you're watching this, it could be something as simple as you usually wake up at 9:00 a.m. and you wake up at 8. And that can be the thing that springboards you to that next level of just making sure that you're hitting that new micro win. And then you start stacking on the harder things, like, then now I'm going to be in the gym by 8:30. And then now I've hit that. And now that's become a non-negotiable. I think a lot of people, and I've personally done this myself, I'm susceptible of this, is they go, all right, I'm going to make all these changes, and then they try to do them all at once, and then they can't adhere to any of them because you put too much on your plate from a mental standpoint. Even if it's not a lot of stuff, you can't change a routine that quickly. As human beings, we are creatures of habit. There's no doubt about it. We're both athletes. We talk about muscle memory, and I had a quarterback coach that said, you better never attempt a pass that you haven't gotten good at practice during a game, because you're going to throw a pick six. So it's one of those things where until you can make it a non-negotiable and make it something that you're actually doing, you also can't be so hard on yourself that you make yourself stop either. That's right. And for what you said about going to that drink because you had a bad month or whatever, I think it's also an inverse too, because there are a lot of people that when they get a lot of success, they also then self-destruct because they don't have any self-discipline around, all right, well, like, I've kind of made it, I'm going to go have that whiskey at 3 p.m. because it's a little warm outside today, and there's all these things that can creep up on you. And Grant Cardone is something that I heard years and years ago. One of the things that stuck with me that he said was, if you want to meet the devil, have white space on your calendar. And like, that is 100% me. I can't have white space on my calendar. I will meet dark places and mentally get all out of whack. So it's, for me, I've just got to stack up that calendar to make sure that I've always got something to do.
I love it. I always say that. It's like, if you don't plan it out, it's going to get planned for you with other people's priorities just getting thrown on there. And then you're going to maybe go scroll social media, you're going to turn on Netflix or whatever your vice at that point is. You're like, hey man, I'm just going to do this. And it's not in alignment. It's not in alignment with success. So yeah, let's talk about that today, because I know we wanted to jam on this for the little bit of time we got left, is what loan officers and real estate agents are doing today to win. I love breaking this down because I always say there's no one way. There's no like 2 ways or 3 ways. Like, there's so many people. If you were to interview 10 highly successful loan officers or real estate agents, they could give you some things. They could figure out, okay, hey, this is working for me. This is working for me. But what are you sharing with your team? I mean, I know you got a large team and you're personally still producing and work with some large real estate teams. What are you seeing that's actually working out there in this market where people should really be paying attention to? They might not be, but they should be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest buzzword is becoming effective at using artificial intelligence to your advantage.
Yeah, let's talk about that. AI's huge.
Yeah, with real estate and loan officers in particular, it's an industry that can either for you as a realtor or loan officer, you can either get very negative in your mind about like, oh, this is going to disrupt the industry, or it's going to disrupt me making money, or it's going to take me out completely. There's all of those doom and gloom people, but the reality is, and we talked about this a little bit, is when you use it effectively and you start integrating it into your day-to-day in the right way, it makes you able to be much more intentional in these kind of things. Very intentional face-to-face, very intentional voice-to-voice, and give yourself these little tricks that will make it to where when you're on the phone with somebody, and if you are training yourself to be ethical and have a high give a crap factor, you're going to use that AI to give you lines after you've gotten off of a call with somebody that, like, for instance, I've got a bot that's trained that pulls out, did it catch any kids' names? Did it catch any kids' sports teams? Did it catch a specific thing about their past? So it goes and evaluates that transcript, and then it gives me a summary of that transcript. I use Fathom a lot. And that way, on the next call that I make to that person, I'm like, hey, oh, by the way, wanted to check up on Timmy. How did the Sharks do in their T-ball game? I know you mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. And if you can effectively do that and integrate it into your day-to-day, you can seem like you've got a massive team behind you. Specifically talking to real estate agents, because usually it's a one-to-one type of thing, and they're kind of doing their own thing, and they haven't built a team yet. You can make it appear like you've got this massive team handling everything in the background while you're just being more effective. And that's one thing where we're getting a lot of wins. If you're a loan officer and you can get yourself trained up on this stuff, being able to put on webinars and educating your referral partners and helping them implement things that are going to really level them up and just innovating. There's a lot of people. One of my biggest pet peeves with the mortgage industry in general is just how behind it is from an innovation standpoint. I mean, it's just decades behind from a mentality standpoint with a lot of organizations. And if you implement this stuff and get really good at it, I think that you can really win with it. And it's not just relegated to loan officers. You can use this stuff as a real estate agent to put on first-time homebuyer classes. There's a company called Gamma.app. Gamma.app, you could literally put your thoughts into a chat GPT and have it emulate you, take that transcript, throw it into Gamma app, and it creates a whole webinar within seconds. And then now you advertise that you're doing a first-time homebuyer webinar. And so there's all these different ways to win and win at scale that I don't think a lot of people are really touching on yet. And that's been a big focus for me and my team as well. I mean, I'm personally making a fully custom coded CRM for my team with the help of AI right now. I mean, it's just, the sky's the limit. It's crazy.
I saw you post about that. Yeah. And I don't want people to miss this before we jump into that. When you just mentioned Fathom, and I think back to 5-10 years ago, how we would have begged and pleaded to have somebody take accurate notes, give us a transcript of what was there, and go, man, what did we meet about? What was the meeting that was there? So if you are not using that kind of tool, we use it in all our meetings. I remember when I introduced it at Revolution Mortgage, man, and they're like, hold on, what is that? And hey, it works with Teams, it works with Zoom, all these things. I'm like, guys, we should go into a meeting. We should know what the agenda is. As we're having the conversation, it should tell us afterwards. It breaks it down. If you're not using it, please don't miss that. You heard Mike share that. And I want to jump in because before we get into the CRM, I know you're building that with the help of Chat GPT and the things there. And then I'd love to know how you're using it every day, because this actually came up with our loan officer team. They're like, hey, I'm doing sales presentations and I'm meeting with this real estate office, and they're asking about this and that. Like, how do you see loan officers using just what we use? Probably Chat GPT. It's probably the most common use today. How are you using that maybe on a daily basis or to prep for a sales meeting even?
Yeah, for me, I'm using it and dropping every bit of content that I do into a specific bot. So from a social media perspective, it can emulate me in a very, very good way. And then outside of that, I also use it to articulate scenarios. So like Encompass, if you're on Encompass, it's not great for that. So if you print out a couple of fee sheets, you could upload them into your pro version. There's no PII data on it, so you don't need to worry about that. And then just tell it like, hey, compare these things side by side and articulate this to the customer in a way that they'll understand. and a ninth grade reading level, and then it places it all side by side. It explains, like, maybe you're trying to explain a 2-1 buy down, or you're trying to put a 2-1 next to a 3-2-1 next to a regular loan. Sure. It would take forever to do that. Like, there's tools for that, MBS Highway, Mortgage Coach, those kind of things. There's tools for that. But if they're not integrated into your company the right way, they just become cumbersome. They become very manual entry and those kind of things. So if you use GPT to your advantage in that sense, what takes a regular loan officer probably an hour and a half to do is going to take me and my team less than 20 seconds to do after we've printed the fee sheet. So it's a great way to level up the speed at which you're operating at. And then the other thing would be just research and articulating research into a more understandable way for the general public. Like, I get way into the weeds on NBSs and economies at scale and all these different things. I start nerding out. If I put all of that into a Facebook post, people will be like, what the heck is Mike talking about?
Too much.
Yeah. So being able to take some of those articles, feed them into GPT, specifically the one that you've uploaded a lot of content about yourself into, or you speaking, upload it into there and say, hey, articulate this in a Facebook post in a way that I would say it. That's right. Take this data and put it in a way I would say it. The other really big benefit of that is these social media platforms are getting really, really smart. So they're flagging AI content left and right, and your reach is going to get destroyed. So those are some of the ways that I'm teaching my team. And then think about how powerful that is as a loan officer if you can take that and then turn that into a course that you go and teach your referral partners on. I hate to use the term taking candy from a baby, but it becomes very, very easy at that point to become a market leader or a market knowledge source on a specific topic if you go really, really deep into it and create courses on it. And I'm way a big believer of webinars and those kind of things at this point.
Well, let's talk about that, because we're doing a webinar now. It's a different style, some of those things there. I've done some Zoom calls this week with agent offices. We've done some training with our team. We've got another one later today. I'm like, what a great opportunity to be able to share like knowledge at scale with people.
Yeah.
And then you have no idea. I think about these all the time is, what we've noticed is you may not get a lot of people that may join the live webinar, what you do there, but then it's content that exists, especially like what we're doing here is it's live on 3 platforms, right? You got YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So now it's evergreen. It is out there. And I think webinars, one of our friends, Neil Dingra was talking about this at Forward last year. I said, you know what? I'm just going to start doing webinars. Didn't really have it figured out. Wasn't really sure about some things. And I mapped it out. What are you seeing if somebody's out there and they're like, cool, I need to do webinars? What are some topics and things that you would recommend for either real estate professionals or loan officers today?
Yeah, loan officers, I'll start with loan officers. You should be doing AI educational webinars. I mean, it is the hot topic right now. If you want to talk about clicks and getting people onto a webinar, like my AI webinars are performing 10x what my just general product update and those kind of things webinars are doing. And to finish up on the loan officer, what we need to understand as loan officers is a lot of the times people don't really give a crap about products. And until we get that in our head, we're not going to be an effective marketer. They really don't care. What we need to be able to drive value to our referral partners or to buyers or to those type of things is a positive outlook on the market and value to whoever we're trying to message it out to. If it's a realtor, giving them value for free, making sure they understand that you're there. That way you can create your little funnel to where then you ask for business at a certain point. For a realtor, it's going to be a little bit wider net on the realtor side. Things like first-time home buyer courses, leveraging Facebook Ads Manager to be able to push that out and get people signed up for it. Hooks in those kind of ways to where, like, while you're doing your webinar, setting it up in a way, this is very, very important for realtors, is setting it up in a way where you have a call to action at least 4 to 5 times through that. That's a subtle call to action. Like, hey, don't forget, if you make it you're all the way through this webinar, I'm going to give you these free assets at the end, because there's ways to track that kind of stuff and send it out. So it's that kind of stuff from a webinar perspective that can be highly valuable. And I would urge you to go live on platforms, because I think live is making a comeback. A lot of people are podcast out. And if you can make your webinar live, either in a closed group or a closed community, and then building that database. So this is pertinent on both the loan officer side and the realtor side. While you're doing these things, if you're not building an email list or building something to be able to send a newsletter on, or building a community, driving them back to a closed Facebook group, whatever it might be, you're going to have so much bleed out of the time that you're spending on it and not getting anything in return, that everything feels like a loss and you'll never get anything from it. So the strategy, and it's a proven strategy that the Hermosis of the world and what Brian and I use, is you want to drop value adds through, specifically on the either side, loan officer or realtor, and then from there drive them somewhere. Where are you driving them? What are you giving them? You always want to give them something and then drive them somewhere where you maintain that community, and you'll see it explode tenfold. This is my first year doing webinars, and I've already built a group up to about 100 members in a 3-week span, so it's repetition and getting the process of it down that becomes really important. I love process. I'm a process nut. That's my go-to.
It makes things work consistently. I saw this post yesterday, made me think of it when you were sharing that. Somebody's like, oh man, I only had 50 people, watch my video or whatever on Instagram, or when they went live, they went back and looked at the results. Man, only 50 people. I was like, imagine a room right now, 50 people paying attention to you. Like, they gave you their attention for whatever period of time they watched it and they were engaged, or some were more engaged. And I was 50 people. Then imagine 100 people or 1,000 or whatever your number was. And it's like, to have 50 people, heck, to have 5 people that are attentive in the right audience that are there. I share all that with you because there are times that we just do it out of consistency, and some perform better than others. And we always research, like, why? What was the topic? I'm going to hit on that AI piece. Massive. Mike, I think you're onto something that I know we're going to do another one. I was learning about it last weekend again from somebody else. I go, I've never heard it shared that way. I've never heard anybody. And I'm going, well, how do you know this? And then I talked to somebody that was an AI expert a month ago, and they didn't share this. And so it's happening so fast and so many changes. And I share all that with you is continually be a learner, right? Continually seek out advice. And that's why I like having guests like you, Mike. I go, man, what do you know that other people should know? And we just share it abundantly out there. So let's move into last question before we kind of wrap for today's webinar. And then I know people are going to want to follow you. We'll have all the links, stuff, guys, to connect up with Mike and to make sure that we can give you some value after the call. But I'd love to know this as you're planning out your 2025, whether people's January started the way they wanted it to, maybe February is going a little better and all those things. Is there anything that you're leaning into outside of AI more? Maybe it is AI. Like, feel free to use that one. But you're saying, you know what? We're going to really lean in and make this a focus because we think this is going to be almost that ripple effect. As we do this well, our business is going to grow. We're going to have enough referrals. We're going to generate the revenue we need to. What are you looking at to make sure you and your team win 25?
Yeah, for us, it's just consistency and giving. That's a reoccurring thing for me is like, let's drive as much value to the marketplace as we can. And people will come and go. And as long as we continue to do what we say we're going to do, we call it our legendary commitment. As long as we continue to do what we say we're going to do and what we're committed to do, everything else will fall into place. I think people get too focused on the day to day and like, how do I make this work and how do I make this work? And they forget that just do what you committed to do for a realtor or for a CPA or whoever's sending you business. You lose so much credibility when you say you're going to do something for somebody and then ultimately fall on your face because you said you were going to do it and then you didn't have it on your calendar and you didn't commit to it or whatever it might be. And that's, for me, I don't think there's any silver bullet that's going to get us as an industry through higher rates or through any of that. I think it's just going to be the consistent action of people that what you put into this right now is what you're getting out of it. During COVID, you might have put something in and got 10x out of it. Right now, you might put something in and you might get minus 10 out of it. So you got to be able to stay positive during that and just keep grinding and keep doing the things that you need to do to try to put wins up on that board and not get so distracted by the losses. Because you got to remember, as loan officers right now, being that we are in a more slower market for mortgages and those kind of things, the buyer pool is going to be less affluent, and we're going to have more problems than we had before. So you're going to feel like you're working harder to get less results, but that's just the nature of the marketplace, and you can't do anything about it other than just keep putting one foot in front of the other and going towards the light that you have placed at the end of the tunnel for yourself.
Dude, I love it, man. I know we could jam. I think it's giving people a lot to think about too, and reflect back. I always love these conversations because they're quick, they get to the point, and as you're listening, I just want you to reflect back today. It's like, find where that gap is for you and something that you go, you know what? I'm not using all the AI power that's out there today. You know what? I'm not delivering that customer experience you talked about, a legendary experience for people. I could raise that standard there. Or we talked about mental, physical health. I believe that's a cornerstone of winning this year is, Mike, when you're sharing, like, we're going to have to put in, we all know this is just non-negotiable. Like, you're going to have to put in more effort to get the same output that we did years ago. That's just a fact of what it is. And often think about that, being a fitness guy and an athlete, you'll get this. It's like there were times that me working out a certain amount through the day, so running a certain pace, doing a certain amount of lifting got me to a point. When you get there, if you don't continually break through those barriers and almost that plateau, you get stuck. I think a lot of people in our industry are stuck. And now's the time to try some of the new things that, by the way, they're not that new, some of them. People have been using them. No. And we need to get in the game with that and teach our referral partners, whether they're realtors, whether they're financial planners. And wouldn't it be cool if you're the loan officer in your market that you just say, you know what, I'm going to be the one, I'm going to go teach people, and I'm going to dominate my market. That could be you today. And so, Mike, thank you for pouring into people. Any final words or anything that that we left out that's on your heart or on your mind, like that you've been really leaning into or that we want to leave people with?
Control the controllables. Don't try to control what you can't control. You can't control other people's actions. You can only control how you react to things. So control the controllables.
Hey, man, dude, what a good word. Well, brother, thank you for pouring in, and everybody that tuned in, whether you were live with us or you tune in afterwards. We always appreciate you. Always ask us is share this with people, right? If this has made an impact on you, something resonated, you're going to take action. Let us know about that. I know Mike and I are both big on let me know that something actually was valuable and that you took action from it, and share it with people that need to hear it. You can be the hero in your market. You go share this, reach out, connect up with Mike. We'll have his socials in there. And then you've got mine as well. That's why we do the show. We want to bring valuable people with valuable information and equip you guys to win more. So thanks for tuning in. Whether you're live or on the replay, let us know. And until we do the next episode, guys, go out there and do something great and challenge yourself to what's possible in your own life. And I believe when you start to do those things that are a little uncomfortable now, you're going to move the ball down the field and score more points. So that's what it's all about. And we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
See you.